What's something stupid you used to do in middle school to be cool? I wrote all the Green Day albums on my bag as a checklist and gradually ticked them to show I had them all. I didn't have them all. Wear an upside down backwards to the left yellow visor with my bleached peroxide hair gelled up. Thank you for sharing. That must have been difficult to admit. This is probably more high school than middle school, but brag about not getting enough sleep. Everyone did it. Oh, you got 5 hours of sleep last night. I have only gotten 2 hours of sleep the past 2 nights. Some stupid game where being the most miserable makes you coolest. A lot of people continue playing this game into adulthood, and not only with sleep. Wore my backpack straps as low as they could possibly go. The bag would slap against the back of my legs every step, but I didn't care cause I was the crap. In middle school, I never caught on that everybody did this. I wore my backpack up tight right behind my shoulders. One day somebody laughed at me and called me a nerd for wearing my backpack so high, and then I joined the club. I had a mullet, listened to DJ Quick, wore a Ghost Rider t-shirt all the time, and called everyone Kemisabe. I used to spike my hair to look like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. Later on I realized I look like a douche. Well, in all fairness, Vegeta was kind of a douche. I played that stupid game, Quarters, with the cool kids. For those who never had the pleasure of playing this game, I'll give you a brief background. One person starts a quarter spinning on edge by flicking it. The second person has to touch the quarter without stopping the spin, followed by person 1 touching the quarter. This touching goes back and forth between the 2 people like a sad game of hot potato until one person touches the quarter and it stops spinning. If you were the poor bastard that caused the quarter to stop spinning, you had to put your knuckles down on the table and the other person would fling the quarter at you as hard as they could. It would hurt and make people bleed, but in middle school it was the coolest thing to do during lunch break. We had kids at our school who would play this without the spinning part, kind of like bloody knuckles. Just see who gave up first. Sold off my dad's pee. Seriously. Found a bunch of old nudie mags in the basement. Ended up selling them out of my locker a page at a time. That worked great until I made the mistake of selling a page to the special needs kid, who immediately showed it to his fundamentalist parents. I suppose the bigger mistake was to get caught doing it again the next year. I'd wear 2 pairs of pants, normally basketball shorts under jeans. If you asked me then I'd swear it was because it was more comfortable, but really I just thought I was the crap. I did this sometimes because people kept pantsing me. There was this one kid who got his pants and boxers pulled off and I was scared. People made fun of my voice, so I started trying to speak in a lower tone, which backfired almost immediately. My gym teacher referred to me as Kermit the Frog for years. When I was in 6th grade, I learned that the girl I had a crush on was coming to dinner with some family friends of ours. I wanted to do something to impress her, to make her think I was really smart. I knew at some point she'd probably be in my room as it's where the kids generally congregated during these sorts of things, so I began to set the stage. At the time, I was all about dumpster diving and hitting up yard sales with my other nerd friends to build Frankenstein rigs with the components we salvaged or picked up on the cheap. So naturally I gathered all my old spare and broken hard drives, poured dish soap all over them and got the hammer out at the ready. When they entered my room, I made sure I was furiously smashing the crap out of these drives with my hammer. Tiny metallic pieces and soap suds flying everywhere. We made eye contact for a moment before she and her friend slowly backed out of the room. She avoided me for the remainder of the evening. All these years later, I can still remember the look of horror and confusion on her face. I can't for the life of me remember what series of thoughts led me to believe there would be any possibility of her having a positive reaction to it. The pubescent mind is an interesting thing. I wore fingerless gloves for an entire day and tried to play it off as weight gloves. However, the Little Tikes green logo was very visible. The cringe is real. Draw random marks on myself so people thought I got into a flirty pen fight with the girls. There were 2 girls who would always draw on me during science. I would get so mad because my mom would get mad when I'd come home with marks all over both arms, and other boys would get really angry or jealous about it, and it just did not click for me. Turns out I'm gay as a bag of dongs, though. I wore a hideous plaid suit jacket from the 70s that I found in the back of my dad's closet. I thought it was hilarious in a so ugly it's cool kind of way. I probably just seemed desperate for attention. Had a pretty righteous wave of extreme yo-yo that swept through during 7th grade. And by extreme I mean a bunch of kids getting excited over who could make their yo-yo sleep the longest. Yo-yo was all the rage at my middle school too. I actually got pretty good and it still makes me happy that if I ever stumble across one I can nonchalantly rock the cradle and then go back to whatever I was doing. I am choosing a book for reading. I can only imagine how sad your father felt. There was a boy I had a crush on when I was in 7th grade. After a class field trip one day, a lot of people got really sunburned. When we were changing classes, I overheard him talking about how sunburned he was afterward. I thought it'd be a good conversation starter since I was so sunburned too. So an hour later when we changed classes again, I went up to him and said, "Hey Chris, look at this sunburn," and pulled up my shirt sleeve to show the back of my shoulder. He looked at me really strange and went, "Okay, yeah, that's nice," and went back to his conversation with his friends. For the rest of the year, I kept getting sunburned intentionally so I'd have a talking point with him, and kept going up to him, "Hey, what about this sunburn? It's pretty bad now. How on top of that, I have such a fair complexion. I don't even tan. So I'd just burn, get embarrassed and go back to being really white." I used to keep my afro pick in my hair. I am a curly haired Arab boy. I see no problem with this. Chain wallets. It started off with short chains. Eventually, it became an unspoken contest to see who could have the longest chain. I flipped over the handlebars of my bike many times when that dang chain got wrapped around the pedal. I worked at a hardware store where you could get various sizes of chain, cut to whatever length. I remember getting a large link about 3 featuring long to try and look cool. Horrible. Wasn't me, but when I was in middle school we had the group who considered themselves the thugs. They weren't that bad. They were pretty much the class clowns that you also didn't want to frick with. Well, I remember in a 6th grade, I went into the bathroom only to find them kicking one of the guys on the floor counting to 30 while the guy on the floor laughed. When it was over they congratulated him and welcomed him into their group. Yup, so cool. I think laying on a middle school boy's bathroom floor should be initiation enough. Sheesh. Well, it's not something I did to be cool but to fit in and seem more normal. I used to pack my own lunch when I was a kid because my mom couldn't be bothered with it, and it really hurt my feelings when other kids would complain about how their moms never got it right and would pack the wrong stuff. So I would pack the only things we had in the fridge and pretend to be upset when my mom would get it wrong and put the diet pudding in, instead of the regular stuff. In reality I did it on purpose so people thought my mom cared enough to pack my lunch too. I didn't just want to fit in, I wanted to blend in. In my middle school, wearing name brand clothes, the kind where everyone can see the logo, was cool for some reason. The 2 big brands were Ecko and South Pole. Problem was, these clothes were expensive, and my single parent household wasn't exactly well off. So everyone made fun of me because all I had was second-hand clothes, often too small for me. My mom conceded to buying me one South Pole t-shirt. I wore that shirt literally every day. People still made fun of me. I learned a lot from that experience. I would wear button-up shirts and button them unevenly, so there was a spare button on the bottom and an extra buttonhole on top. The theory was that it would annoy girls and they would fix it for me. I wore shorts every day. It's raining and freezing cold outside. Doesn't matter, I'm wearing shorts. As an Asian kid who didn't weigh above 100 pounds until high school, wore an XXL G-Unit t-shirt that had sleeves which would reach my mid-forearms with size 32 jeans. I lived in a suburban town with a median income of over $100,000 and my school students were predominantly Asians and Jews. I was a member of a group of kids who dressed similarly. We called ourselves the Ghetto Gang. Used to bring Universal Remote to school and turn off the TVs when teachers tried to show videos to frick with them. Brought little remote control race cars and put cups over them and drove them around on the floor to scare people who thought it was a rodent. Oh, and JNCO's pants. Made little stick figures out of pipe cleaners. I made the heads just big enough to fit around a pencil. It made me happy seeing someone pull out a pencil with one of my little pipe cleaner people on the end of it. That's adorable. I used to wear band-aids on my knees just because I thought it made me cooler somehow. I once started walking with a limp in the mall when I was with my mom. I didn't have any pain. I just thought that cool people limped. My mom took me to the doctors, even when I insisted that nothing hurt and I had stopped limping. It'll take wear Heelys for 1000, Alex. Okay, I've always wondered if this was something that just happened at my middle school or if it was a bigger trend. In 6th grade it became a huge thing to collect what we called chromies. Chromies are what we called the metal vent caps on car tires. Try looking at a bunch of car tires sometime. Most of the vent caps are made of plastic, but on some cars they're made of metal. Those are chromies. Of course, the only way to get chromies was to steal them off of cars. Since I was never a very popular kid, I saw this as a chance to shine, so I started seriously getting into collecting chromies, which I mostly got by walking around the neighborhood and taking them off people's cars parked in the driveway. Another way to get them was to pretend to tie your shoes in a parking lot as you were going back to the car. I pretty soon had the biggest collection of chromies of any kid in the school, about 120 I think, but better than that, 8 of them were off Lexuses, which were the holy grail of chromies. The ones on Lexuses were painted gold, and as being stupid kids we thought they were actually made of gold, so those were the best chromies of all. Some kid paid me $5 for 3 of them, which as a 6th grader was all the dang money, so you bet I took it. Then summer vacation came, and when we came back for 7th grade nobody cared about chromies anymore, so I went back to being one of the not cool kids. My collection vanished at some point, but somehow I still have one chromie which I still keep on a shelf with some other trinkets to remind myself of how much of a freaking idiot I was in middle school. Hair gel. Lots of it, just plastered in my hair to the point of forming a helmet. I went to a Catholic school, so I thought being an altar boy made me pretty dang cool. It did not. As someone who was an altar boy for 5 years, there was only one cool thing about it. It could get you out of class from time to time. Carried around a handmade sign I took everywhere. One side said awkward, the other so random. I held this up at some situations to be funny. I wasn't funny. This is terrible. Throwing pencils upwards so that they get stuck in the ceiling. I still think this is somehow cool. Writing that goddamn S everywhere. You know the one. I would get a girlfriend and then never talk to her again, and she would break up with me. I don't know if it was meant to be cool, but it worked to keep me from ever kissing a girl until I was 16. Made a secret deal with a close friend. We both will subtly drop rumors about each other that we both have hot girlfriends outside school. The next day after football, I initiated, "Have you seen Pat's girlfriend? She's a real cutie." Another guy, "He was saying the same about you this morning. What, you guys made some loser pact about a pretend GF?" Me, "I gotta go. See you tomorrow." I was in a breaking crew comprised of 5 Caucasian boys ranging in ages from 13-14. We were purposefully awful as a kind of performance art. We'd gather at the NY Public Library on Saturdays with our boombox and have everyone laughing at us. My street name was Weak Tea. This sounds absolutely hilarious. Please say you have videos of this. Put rubber bands on my jeans to scruff them up. Take fashion pictures with girlfriends and hand them out to friends. Wear a belt buckle with my first name's initial on it. Wear K-Swiss with the flaps. Carry only a folder and no backpack. East LA in the early 2000s. This is the Pizza Cat. He looks for people like you to befriend and give them the gift of unlimited pizza. This can only be granted if you comment pizza PLZ. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.